So I was ready to leave North Carolina, and I knew I'd be moving, and I knew I could apply for this art residency that was 3 months because I wouldn't have to pay rent and I'd be between jobs, so it was like a perfect time to apply if I got it. So I applied. Ruth Kohler, who has since passed, but who started the arts industry program, loved this work, and that's why I got accepted into the program. So when I went to do the residency, I was working in the foundry. Never worked in iron or any kind of sculpture material like that. I thought at first I was going to do bakeware, like fantastic bakeware, iron, like waffle irons or things like that. And that was what my proposal was with, but by the time the residency came around a year later, my grandmother had passed away on my dad's side, and so I had brought with me to the residency some of her collectibles and some of mine, and I was trying to figure out what to do do some work about her. So it took me a couple weeks of looking through slides at the art center of different work that people did who had done the residency, because I had never worked in the material, and so I wanted to see what I thought was successful and what didn't work. And at that time it was little slides, so it was really funny. So for 2 weeks I was just looking at all these little slides, trying to figure out what to do. And at the same time, my cohort, Sarah Peters, who's now a successful sculptor, was there, and she had done the residency before, and she had come back, and she told me the story about she did a cast iron wig that weighed 500 pounds. And they paid for everything, which is wonderful, but she had it shipped back to her apartment in Brooklyn. And I was like, I can't do that. I can't do anything that doesn't fit in my Ford Escort that I can't pick up. So I ended up doing casting all of our collectibles and plates and dishes of my grandmother's, and then making stacks with them. So that you saw some back there. So these pieces, they were very happy with the work, and they gave me a show at their space the following year, and then I did another show with them back actually in Durham, North Carolina, and it was a really nice ending to my time there. Okay, so that's, I just mentioned that because that was the original residency, which got me in to the art center. So come forward, let's see, 2007. I came to Morristown because my stepfather had cancer and my mom needed help at the time. Anybody, I'm sure everybody here has helped people with cancer, and you were on their journey. So she was all alone, kind of dealing with him. So I came up, but I was in the middle of trying to open up my business in South Carolina. So I came, anyway, he passed away, and I ended up staying here and bringing everything back up from South Carolina, and opened up my shop here in 2009. On Catano, and he was one of the only people that would rent to me. Believe it or not, there was no food. When I opened up my shop, there was hardly any food places in Morristown. So when the shop opened, I gave up studio art, and I just used all my energy for the shop. So the first 2 years at the shop were figuring things out. I went through the API program at Rutgers, which helped me a lot, their entrepreneur program. And at the shop, we started to get regulars. I learned everything. I mean, it was great. We also had started doing farm-to-table dinners, inspired by Grower Green, who also, started at the same time. we did also the same year. We worked with different nonprofits during those dinners that we would do, and we did them as fundraisers, and it was an interesting time because I learned a lot about these nonprofit businesses in Morristown. Some were good to work with, some were not good to work with. So I'm going to show you, I think, some pictures. Okay, that's the shop. So Settabellas, you guys all know Settabellas, remember when that place was here? So when he left, we had the whole courtyard for some years, so it was really fun. So we did dinners in the back, farm stable dinners, and I actually had time then to like pick stuff and I went out. This was with Bennett Hayes, who had started a farm called Ralston Farm. It didn't last, but he was a brilliant farmer, him and his brother, but they couldn't make it work. Most of their land was rented, and between driving everywhere in New Jersey, delivering, it didn't work, and he now works for Jose Andres, who's a great job. But I like that picture because I feel like it never happened. Okay. One of the nice connections I made was up in New York with Blooming Hill Farm. And this is Guy Jones. He's a very famous organic farmer because he was one of the first farmers to bring organics to the restaurants in New York City, like Grandma and he would drive his truck down and sell them all his organic stuff. So my friend next to me is Mark Cantu, and he at the time worked for Mario Batali. And the chef at Babo was supposed to do the dinner here, and he called out, I'm not sure what happened, a few nights before, and Mark told Guy that he knew the person that could do the dinner. So I did the dinner. It was great. It was a really wonderful experience. And my staff came, customers at that time, I would recruit customers with good knife skills to help me with these dinners. And yeah, it was a different time. Okay, so then this is another dinner we did. We were outside with his greens, lighting up. And I got invited to do a couple things at the James Beard House. So I did, one of them was a tea. I did with a fellow pastry chef, Erica, who was working for the shop at the time. And this other one was done in 2012. And I worked with a friend who was a chef in South Dakota. And we did this whole meal around food of the plains, a lot of game meats and berries. And I remember this was a really fun meal. She sent me all the game meat to the shop, and so I had all these animals in my and I was so worried the health department was going to come in. The blood was just so everything was so wrong about it. And, what was really fun is for the dinner. Wandina at the time, again, some customers, my mom, the 18th, got to do all the prep at, what's the, some big Marvitella, what's the Marvitella restaurant? Babo, yeah, that's a famous Italian, right? Yeah. So they got to work in that kitchen and do all the prep, because Mark got us in that kitchen. And then I stayed back and baked the breads at the shop. It was that was just a nice experience. And that was my dessert. I did, one of the things I did, which was a dried sage custard with a coffee caramel and wild plum sauce. And like I said, we did artichokes. We were doing everything then at the shop. And this is Elena Brooke, who's here, who we just had the time, because it's like almost like every customer we had plenty of time to get to know, and it was fun. This guy Tom was a customer, and he liked doing ceramics. So we were talking, and the backspace was open. So I'm like, let's do a pop-up ceramic studio. And he was like, great. And what was good is Francine Epstein, who was was, Marty's ex-wife, Marty's wife, did ceramics, and she happened to come into the shop and talk to me about possibly selling her pottery, and I was like, well, I have an idea, how about you, anyway, it just turned out she brought, her assistant brought all these wheels, and they set up the back of the, the courtyard, set up this ceramic studio for me, and I told customers, I was like, we're gonna do this ceramic studio, you gotta come, and they were like, they didn't know what I was talking about. They would just get a handful of people to sign up. But then once they saw it, they were all like, oh, I can't wait for you to do it next time. There's not gonna be it. They're not gonna do this again. So that was, do they look like they want to do it again? No. So that's the kiln that they built in the back. That's Tom. That's the pottery they made. I mean, everybody made it. That's after it was fired. And what was really nice is my staff always gets dragged into everything, so they got a chance to try it. And Tom worked with them that day, so that was nice. And what was icing on the cake was in 2016, Morris Arts gave me the placemaking award, which they were giving out at the time, which meant a lot to me. Look at my notes. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about my Lakota, my heritage, through the art, and this was art that I was doing while the shop was open. Even though I had stopped doing studio art, I got a call from the Center for American Indian Research and Native Studies, and they wanted to include me in a Lakota art show. And they felt like it was important that I also be included, even though I didn't live out on the land, I didn't have that same Native experience, because they were trying to talk about almost like the diversity even among that group of Lakota people. So I did the first show with them, which was a piece of art. We were asked to respond to work in the museum, the Sioux Museum's collection. And I don't know if I have any of that work, but I'll show you some of the work. Okay, so this was for a show called The Gift. This is a piece about Buffalo. They asked me to do a painting about the transformation of Buffalo cattle. And so I had to do a lot of research on the story, which is really one of the wonderful things about working with this organization is I learned a lot about my heritage. So when I looked up Buffalo Cap women, you just Google it, right? And you look at art. Sexy maidens, half buffalo, half. And black hair. And I was like, okay, that's not me. I can't go that route. So I thought I would talk about the transformation, kind of the energy when she became Buffalo Cap woman. So I included in this, this is actually real buffalo hide that's painted. And this was, the pipes are there, there's always a pipe in ceremonies and smoke. Anyway, I was very happy with this piece. It's really just about energy. And I felt using those pink and green colors was very youthful and very, you can't tell, but it has a lot of glitter on it. And I was trying to make it feel current. Even though it's a very old-time story, I really wanted the piece to feel very modern.
How big is that?
That's like 4 by 3 feet. And that's me with my favorite guy, John Bozen Center, out there. He's amazing person. I was really happy to tell. Okay, and this was also for the show. This is a piece about the ceremony of girlhood. A Buffalo Cap woman is coming out of the pipe. With ceremonies, there's always a pipe, always a skull. There were some berries in that bowl. So these were things that have to do with the ceremony. And also, the woman is, when she has her period, when she has her first, and she's in a teepee by herself. And it's it's a very, I don't know how to, it's just very, spiritual, just, so. I also got, did a show at the Sioux Museum in, South Dakota, and then at the Plains Museum in North Dakota. And so for those, I had to get a studio, cause I couldn't do everything in my dining room anymore. So this was a studio I had at Gates, in Newark. And that was one of the pieces I did. And then for the last show, Samantha Rothman at Grove Farms let me use her upstairs. And, this little mouse-ridden room, but it was good. And I did paintings, and this series was, it was a very small series, was, I was inspired by Parkflesh, design, and I thought about my grandma Bowdish, my great grandma Bowdish, because she made a lot of ohos. And I just remember watching her make it. Does everybody know what an oho or a God's eye is? They're those yarn triangles with two sticks, and just that rhythm of her, just like, you know, she just did that all day long. She made just God's eyes. So one of the most important shows I did with the Center for American Indian Research was called Takuwe, which means why in Lakota. And this was about the Wounded Knee Massacre. All of you know what Wounded Knee is? So I thought about it, and I thought I was first thinking about a painting. So I went out to South Dakota to do some research, and go to Wounded Knee, of course, and talk to people, and just kind of think what I thought. This is the Wounded Knee Memorial that's out in Wounded Knee. And that chain link fence is what's around the mass burial. And that's how it looks now. So I had brought some paints out with me, and this is red shirt. This is a nice plateau. And I just was laying the groundwork for some pieces, but I really wasn't feeling it. And from talking to people there, everybody had kind of a different story about their family with Wounded Knee, and I just was struggling with the piece. So let me see there. So I ended up going to a museum that just opened up called in Alabama, called the National Memorial for Peace and Justice and the Legacy Museum. And that, if any of you have been here, it's a museum about racial terror and about lynchings. And I really wanted to see how people talk about things that are spiritually criminal to us, and that really, there's no silver lining, nothing good. So it was very helpful, because at the museum they walk you back and they walk you forward. There's no blame, there's no anger. It's just, I don't know, it's just content. But it helped me a lot. So I came back to New Jersey, and I thought for this piece about what did I know about Wounded Knee? What in any of my family were the experiences? Well, my great-grandmother, Grandma Bowdish, remembers Wounded Knee because she was a young girl, and she just remembers all the crime. So I remember that story from her. And I thought about a traditional star quilt that's in our culture. So I thought I would make a quilt with the fabric similar to what people might have made who were buried. So I started, this was in New Jersey here on the dining floor with my mom. We made this quilt together. So this is a star quilt. This is one of the corners of it. And we made a double star quilt. And as we were making the quilt, originally I thought it would be on the wall, and then I decided the quilt needed, plus we were looking at it all the time on the floor, but I thought, oh, it needs to be viewed on the ground. We're not gonna hang the quilt up. People have to look down at the quilt, like the people in the ground. So after it was made, then I thought it needed to be buried like the people. who were killed or buried. So this is out in South Dakota at the Center for American Indian Research. And I brought the quilt out the same time, late December, at Wounded was. And my mom and I buried the quilt. So that's us. So I think if I could have, I would have just left the quilt in the ground and left it a conceptual piece, but I couldn't for this because they needed the quilt. So they unearthed it for the show. I'm not sure if the show was I'm not sure when the show was. But it got unearthed, and then it just looked like that when it was displayed. And what was good about it is the art, through all those processes, lost any preciousness, and it had no more value than the people's lives. So I just, it worked. It was what I wanted. I didn't want something that, like I said, that meant more than the people's lives. So that was a really amazing experience and learning experience for me. Much like when my stepfather went through cancer. This is just a nice scene of South Dakota. Okay. So now we're gonna go back to the shop. Like this, so this is kind of how my life was. Something new, something else, something different. So this is kind of how it was for me. So back to baking. So okay, I'm talking about gingerbread. Who wanted to baking? Okay, let's talk a little bit about baking. Okay. So gingerbread. The shop has been doing it for years, making houses, doing all different stuff. And I was trying to figure out something that the shop did that we could take out into the community, that we could just, I don't know, it just would be my connector to people. So this is at the food bank. They used to have that Chef Paul, who runs the kitchen there. And I mean, this was a wonderful experience. They had a pastry chef at the time. They have a new one now who's wonderful, who teaches there. What's his name, Alan? Do you know the name of the pastry chef there?
Not the new one.
Okay, but when I was there, that pastry chef was kind of on her way out. So I felt like I filled in a little bit. So I would work with the students, and we taught them gingerbread house making. And these guys, and so I always say this, you guys can make whatever you want. And these guys want to make a car garage. They made a car garage. Oh, it's great, they loved it. I mean, it was awesome. I mean, that's what they want, right? And they're smiling, but they did not like doing that. They smiled for the picture, which was nice. But, so they have to do everything from mixing it to designing it, everything from scratch. And I also taught at the Donald Payne School in Newark. And the kids there were great, taught them gingerbread. In some ways, it's not exactly what you're teaching them, it's just you're teaching them a process or a new way of looking at things. And they entered competitions then, it was really nice. Now, I don't know who this was a public school, so these men aren't bakers, they're like commissioners or something. they're so this is a big deal. This is a big deal. They're the winners. Yeah, those guys, so fun. So I was thinking about what I knew, like with this school, with the food bank, and I had been seeing someone and going to JMKAC a lot, and so I was thinking about JMKAC. And they have all those nice rooms, chase rooms and stuff. So I thought I would approach them, and I approached the women's organization there, but doing jazz and gingerbread. So we had, at that time, Kiana Fairclough was the DJ at WBGO, and she was the DJ. The students at the Donald Payne School made all the cookie decorations and also helped at the events. The food bank made all the houses for this. And I don't think it was a fundraiser as much as it was just a community holiday celebration in Newark. And it got just a great variety of people. And the people, the students who helped with it from the food bank also got to bring their families to this and participate. So everybody who helped also got to enjoy that experience. And it was just such a magical night of people. And it was sweet. And then we did it one year. We did it in the, I forgot the hell it says in the Ryan Gallery. And it was really wonderful. There's your guy. These are some students who helped, and these are some of the musicians. It was that time it was a live, what group was it? What jazz, what was the band?
It was the Jazz for Teens program.
Jazz for Teens program. They played, and it was really nice. That's Royce's son. People don't know what you're saying.
Yeah.
And so these are the kids from the high school who helped. Afterwards, when they had time, they came over and they were able to do their houses. They loved it. The whole thing for them, all the work. What was good about it is everybody had to do a lot of work, but nobody minded when it was all over because they all enjoyed it, which is what you want. So I was thinking, like, I don't need to do all this stuff in Newark. Like, I gotta do it at home. So, I always see those guys hanging out in front of the mission. I'm like, I got a project for them. So, I brought the gingerbread to them. So they mixed it, and they get to design whatever they want with cardboard. So, and this is a quick turnaround process. So what happens is they mix it, we roll it, and then I actually take the houses back, and my crew makes them in gingerbread overnight, in 2 days, and dries them, and then they come back and bring them back, and then they can decorate them. So like that's Chubby's. That guy's hilarious. Okay, so this is just them working on these houses. So that's what so when we come back to the shop, see how it's like taped? We have to take it apart. And that one, somebody put so much green tape on it. What to do? So this is sweet because you can see this was Zay's cardboard. This was what Zay got. And then Zay decorated, and he really enjoyed it. It was good. This was one of the first groups, and this guy, when I got there, was not very nice to me. I mean, it's fine, they're just angry, he was very angry that I was there, and, but he did it, and it turned out that he had worked at a bakery when he was a kid, and so, when people are going through rehabilitation, you just don't know you never take anything personal, but I just don't know what they're going through. So, it's interesting. Yeah, that thing was a pain to make. So these guys make these things so big. They have a cap on the sides because they were making these things that were enormous. Like that cross, and then one guy made a little car that was sealed up. This is funny. This guy worked for the post office, and he hated it. And then he made a post So it's interesting because I always just hope it gets them out of where they are and they try something different. It's not cool. There's something cool about gingerbread, but it's good to try. I feel like in their new life they're going to have new things. So I don't ever think they're going to make gingerbread, but I think it's good for them to get out of themselves and try something. I guess now, does anybody have any questions so far? So fun. No?
Are you still doing the gingerbread houses?
Yeah,
At the mission?
Yeah. They may be in April, so I have to go back. But now we put them up for display down the street, and we make they make a town, and, yeah, it's one of my, I'm on the schedule, she already came out. Okay, so, one of the things from doing all this stuff, and, my staff is, you know, of course, dear to me. Two of them, Eusebia and Blondina, are two sisters who have worked for me. And Blondina, on the right, has quit, she's been fired, I bring her back. We have like this really, good relationship. But I absolutely, these two, they just, they're so true, they're just such true, people for me. And something about them just hits me to my core. When was this? In 2021, their father passed away, and Blondina asked if she could set up the altar at the shop. And I didn't know, I'd seen Dias de los Muertos, I'd seen altars, but I didn't really know what she was talking about. So she set it up at the shop and brought his picture in. I think Kathy helped with the flowers, right? Maybe? Yeah, Kathy did the flowers. Were you at the shop then? No. And I saw her put out a Coca-Cola and some Pepsi, her dad liked that, a cigar, and I was just really moved by the whole thing, that it was done in, at the shop, that she felt very comfortable doing it. So, that same year, that was in 2021. 2022, in May, there were two shootings. There was the Buffalo shooting in Buffalo, New York. And then there was, the following week, there was the Uvalde shooting with children. So it was just, everything was just, all of us our heads were spinning. And so as a team, as a shop, with Adriana and Eusebia, we decided we were going to do something at the shop for this, but we didn't know what. Some kind of memorial. We just didn't know what it would look like. So I came up with, for Day of the Dead, to do an art piece. It's not a true altar because we didn't wait long enough for the. You have to wait at least a year. I think you have to wait a year. So I thought we would do more of a conceptual piece, but using the altar as a way of celebrating the lives of the victims. So I worked with Corey from Cauliflower, because she had the flowers. Adriana, and there's Eusebia, and that was Doris, and why can't I remember her name? Oh, Cirrus. And so we did this piece called The Gates, and we worked with Morris Arts on it, and it ended up being a much bigger project. So Morris Arts let us put it in the atrium where the parking authority is, downstairs. Yes, we were able to set it up there. Doug Wentz did the music for the evening. So we did this installation. So we made everything at the shop. We used leftover cardboard. There's Eusebia making the sugar skulls for the altars. The staff was decorating the skulls. That's Elena, the artist. And she's drawing, what she's drawing here, for the altar, we wanted things that were about all the people. So like, one of the kids wanted to be in 4-H, so we made some animals. One of the fellows from Buffalo was a driver, and he just loved his car, so we made a little token of his car to hang up. Somebody liked music. So we tried to, we looked at everybody and looked at all of their lives and tried to come up with something. in the altar that celebrated them. One woman loved strawberry shortcake, so that's what that is. And I remember learning from Eusebia and Blondina that the altar, that day when they come back, that it has to be happy, because it has to be a nice spiritual exchange, so you can't be sad. But I was so sad making this piece because I kept looking at those pictures and I was the one doing the research on the families. So this is us in the kitchen. We're cutting out the frames for the pictures. And I had to ask everybody to take 7 frames home to decorate at home. I didn't know what they were gonna come back with. So some people decorated with toilet paper, some people cap lids. Somebody decorated with rice and beans. It was like, I hated to paint them, but it was just so charming. So that's Adriana. She's picking the frames for the pictures. And then we had to make that material stuff. It's out of paper. And then that's the altar in the middle.
Wow.
So it was a really nice evening, and I remember when we were doing it, the moms against guns wanted to be there at the event, and I asked them not to come. I said they could come, but they can't come I said this is about the lives of who passed away, because I felt like, especially with those 2 shootings, every time any bit of it was mentioned, it just strictly went to politics, strictly went away from the lives, and nobody, for either one of those 2, was really thinking about the people. So the following year, we loved it, but we can't, you don't wanna do it. You don't wanna do a shooting, I mean, we wanted to really kind of think more about the holiday. So, the following year I worked with, we worked with a lot of people, whatever. So, we decided to do, Dias de los Muertos all over Morristown. So we thought we'd kind of bring it out into the streets. So we worked with the library here, they showed movies, the high school, well, here I'll show you. But, Raul from Central Taqueria ordered these Morristown signs, and so everybody who participated had these nice, these banners to hang up. So that's us decorating, making stuff for a window, and we were doing, like skeletons, bakery for the dead. So, and then that was our window, skeletons having tea. And this was at Beanie's Ice Cream, if you've been there, they had an altar, they had an altar then for people who lost pets that year. So they had a really nice turnout. This was another store, the Rocks Box had an altar. Churches were also involved. They had altars for different, things. I'm not sure what that was for, but St. Peter's had the altar for the children, so people who lost children. And, it was just really special because we had such a nice variety of people involved. And so that night, even though it was so cold, that you could walk around and see all the altars that people made. This year, they're gonna make sure it's longer so more people have time to see it. This is at the high school. The kids decided to do a whole long dinner table of artists' place sittings who had passed away. So those are some students' work. Always pizza. So funny, I couldn't believe it. So this is the table. I did get a good picture with the shot, but it was a really, it was just beautiful, this long table with your art on it. Okay, that's cauliflower had a display of. This is St. Peter's, and see, we had made for St. Peter's a big teddy bear for the kids out of roses, out of paper roses. Okay. Why you're here. So, but I just talk about all that stuff because that's who I am now. So, when they asked me, when, in 2013, Tanya from the John Michael Kohler Art Center reached out about the 50th anniversary of the art industry program, I couldn't just pull myself out of the shop for 3 months and make art for myself. Clearly, it's just not like the path I was on. Though I do value it in other people so much. I think I did it for many years. So I had to work with them on it because they wanted me to be there. So we just went back and forth about it, and we talked about how I'm a different person than I was, in 2001. And I put out the proposal that I would come there and build this smart kitchen, and I would work with their community, and they would make the products kind of, because I wanted to talk about Kohler, about the factory, Kohler, right, the plumbing, that makes the toilets and everything. So I really wanted to talk about the workers at the factory, and about work, about manual labor, and I wanted their community to make the art. I didn't want to do it. So I sent them, so this was in June of, June 2nd, okay. So in September, I went out there and talked with them at the bakeries, had a site visit, and I had come up with this, the gallery was huge. So I'd come up with this plan to do this, this out of like cardboard or just temporary, because this was what was gonna hold all the pastries items that people were gonna make. That's the only I can explain. So they really wanted to nail all this down in November and December, and those are my busiest days, busiest months. And I had so many Zoom calls with them, and I was not there. I couldn't, it was kind of a little bit crashing, the project at that point, because the person who was gonna help, was gonna do the original build out, pulled out. It was a donation pulled out, and their staff didn't have the time then to build it, and so I just couldn't do anything. I did a backup, but I couldn't do anything with them until January, and it was really hard getting them to wait because museums are on big schedules. They like to have everything really organized. So in January, February, I came back to them with a much smaller plan. And I kind of knew this could be built easily. So I shouldn't say, well, with the help of my brother. So I flew out one day and showed him the proposal. That's my brother Tall, that's Tanya. We did some measuring, and the plan was I was gonna come back in March. The opening was like a Friday. I was gonna fly to Chicago on Sunday. Tall and I were gonna go shopping on Monday for wood, do all the building, Monday and Tuesday, then deliver it Wednesday, Thursday, and then the opening was on Friday. And I know they hated it. I know that they hated it, but, and then my brother and I showed up, and his pickup was nothing made, everything was just pieces. I know they were just, but, so, there's my brother. He's great to work with. He looked at that, he's making sure the wood is perfect. So, that's me eating a hot dog. You gotta eat hot dogs if you're in Chicago. So he lives in a neighborhood in Chicago on, not Sheffield. Anyway, it just happened to be like the most beautiful days in Chicago. So that's the garage where we were working out of. And that's his neighbors who kept watching. The whole time. And that's a view from up above, looking down. and that's the oven. And then that next space is in the garage, the painted pieces. Those are the conveyor belt holders. My brother taught can paint so fast. He could just knock that stuff out. So we were ready to go up on Wednesday, I couldn't believe it. But it was because of the weather. So on Wednesday, we drove up and he started assembling everything. And the museum staff kept coming through, looking, and, because we're putting stuff in the walls, anybody who has a museum knows, don't touch the walls, people will touch the walls plenty of times. And the oven was like the biggest headache for him, and he just kept thinking about it. How's it gonna go up? Because he was trying to not do so much damage to the wall. Because we've been trying to be very respectful. So, we figured it out. And that's the glazer and the... So these products that you're seeing here were made by the staff, and we needed them for the opening, because at that time we didn't have any products to show. So the staff had made a whole bunch of stuff. I did a Zoom, event with them, and they made all of those. Okay, so the opening, Friday, opening, I was why we were all so tired, Louise was in charge of all of the educational stuff, and she scheduled all the groups for me. So like every day I had like 40 students, 60 students, sometimes, I mean, all different ages, all different groups, but they kept me working, and it was good because I needed all those people to make the art, you know, because it was empty. So I needed them. At the opening, I got to meet the next generation. Mrs. Bruce's nieces. Well, Laura is the blonde, and then Rachel, her sister. And they were fantastic, and it was really exciting to see them excited about the future of the art center and the arts, and you need that. You need that so much. So that was great. It was a nice opening. So then, get to work. I have to get to work right away, and I'm talking to people, trying to get them to sit down and do some work. Now it's kind of what I try to be a part of this. So I got a couple people here. So let's see. So this would be, we set up for a group to come. So this would be one of the, like the tables set up. And see, there's nothing there, and I had to put up paper, white paper for conveyor belts. I just had to do stuff. This guy, Jerry, came, and he had just retired from Kohler after 50 years, and he was great, and a great, I felt like he was a celebrity. And this guy was another worker, but I couldn't get a good picture of him, but I could show you his back. But he had worked at Kohler too for a long time. Most of the guys that worked there a long time, physically could do it, and they were really healthy still. They, and were super positive. So we got going on the cakes. We got some coffee cakes in the oven. It's good, things are moving along. Did a little s'mores inspiration from the shop. And the materials, I used a lot of their materials that were donated to the art center, and these are floor tile samples that we painted for the graham crackers. And then, Adriana came to visit, so and she helped just for a little bit. And there's Lori sewing a marshmallow with her hard hat on. So these are making the cakes. They have their gloves on. Anytime you go near the oven, you had to wear a glove. And what was cool is they put that red light behind the oven, so it looked hot. It was great. That's so I was able to work with. This is I can't remember. I want to say her name is Susan. She now owns Wigwam Shop. It was her father's business. And it's a sock company in or near Sheboygan, and so they donated all these socks. So we used up all these runoffs, so we used them for donuts. And that was, and then we got foam donated, and that was for croissants and breads. So those are some of the kids. I couldn't take pictures of people in the museum because I'm not allowed, or else I would have, believe me, I would have taken so many pictures of people's faces, but I had to, I'm not allowed. So, these are some kids working on their donuts. And so once the school groups would come, we would pack up all their donuts, and it would be like Wilson High, or different schools, and so they'd get them back when the show came down. So it was all, it was handled really nicely. That's loaves of bread. She's working on zucchini bread there. Decorating. This guy cut all these circles so perfectly for his banana bread. He didn't have any time, he only had time to decorate one side. She's heading over to the oven. She's got her oven mitts on, it's good. And there's some zucchini bread. More donuts. I was so sick of those things. I was so sick of that project, but people loved it, so we did it. I had a nice visit also from Craig, who is from CARES, the Center for American Indian Research. He came to the Art Center to see the project. I was very excited about that. There's some kids drawing on slices of cakes over there. That's security. They were supposed to be working, but they it was fine. This whole thing was so supported, this whole project by Kohler. The staff, everything about it, it was a really wonderful experience. And next visitors, Daniel from Rosada came down with Chris and Ryan and Yvonne, and it was wonderful, 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 wonderful. There's Chris. He didn't need those gloves, but he just wanted to wear them. And what was really cool is Danielle brought her jewelry down, and she had done work with the shows, or with Kohler, or you had been in the art shows, right?
We did the art
fairs.
But we've toured the residency like 3 times since.
Yeah.
In the world, it is the top arts and industry residency. It's a very big deal.
So it was cool, so her jewelry was there, and she happened to run into people, when she was at the store, this woman bought your work, right, remember her? She recognized you. Okay, so what's good, end of the residency, things are coming together, conveyor belts are getting filled, croissants, gingerbread men, cookies. This is a good example. This is what I ask everybody to do. I need a chocolate chip cookie, and look how different all of them are. I couldn't get one single one missing. That's us in the middle of mayhem, making stuff. For Mod Podge cakes, those came out great. See, so the racks are getting filled, so I'm getting ready to leave. This is good. I feel like I can leave, now that the orders are getting filled. Tons of them. It was great. Sheet cakes. Oh, I did, so I thought this would be great. I had the kids, because I was inspired by coffee cake, so I had all these little kids. And I asked the kids, what does a coffee cake taste like? What's the flavor of a coffee cake? And they were all like, bitter? Yeah, coffee. I was like, coffee cake. And of course, they don't know what coffee, they don't drink coffee. There it is. I had to switch gears, sheet cakes. They all knew what a sheet cake was. But it was just, of course, why would a 5-year-old know what that is? So this was exciting. By the time I left, the oven was filled. One of the things filled with breads and cakes and different desserts. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions? Comments? Yes?
What was the process for having all the different ideas for all the different baked goods for the different?
I thought about what materials they had and what we could do. So, like we got all that foam. So they showed me all their foam, and I was like, okay, what am I gonna do with it? And we made, one time, we had a project that was, the kids couldn't do, it was with using a hot glue gun, and so we had to quickly, switch gears, but there was enough, we had other projects for them to do. They could always do the cookie, that was like, so we had like our fallback, always doing that, we had our fallback project. But all those were designed by me, coming up with ideas for how to use the materials that were donated.
So what was the age range? It sounds like you're
From
dealing
5
with
to
children
seniors, to seniors.
Yeah, I mean.
So it was every age that I worked with. And I went to some facilities there with, I'm not sure how to say it, adults with disabilities, and, so they brought their stuff back to the kitchen. But, so it was good. So it was all different. So I learned, I mean, that's what was humbling. One day I worked with little kids who were like, had their future ahead of them. And then I was with, the disability group in the afternoon. And you could tell some of those people maybe had some brain trauma or something. And you were like, gosh, you just don't know how life is what's gonna happen to you. Yeah.
How did the Kohler Corporation get involved in these industrial design projects? Because most people think of them as, your toilet or your
Right,
faucet.
so there were
How
two
did they
siblings,
expand into that?
there were two siblings, Ruth Kohler and her brother Herb Kohler. And Herb Kohler was like the genius with the company. And he's the one who really brought it to worldwide, international success. She was a genius in other ways, and she really wanted artists to be in the factory, working along the factory workers. She thought this would be a great experience for artists just from what she saw in artists. So she had to work with her brother on it, and it took some time, but he ended up agreeing, and that's when arts industry was developed. And so it's an amazing residency because you would never get to work in a factory. I mean, you'd never get this opportunity, and while they're like pouring metal, you're pouring little stoves, but it's in that same importance and in that same, you're just right alongside of them. You're not, I don't know how else to say it, it's just, it was very unique. So, but they do a lot of, vetting, I feel like, don't you think, like they call, they, you have to give them like 4 references when I had applied.
It's very,
And
very hard to get.
It was very hard.
Very hard.
So when I applied, I didn't have I didn't have references. I didn't even know what that was. It was the only residency I'd ever applied for. I didn't know who to put on there. So I put on Fran Davidson. They didn't know that was my mom until they called her. So she gave me a good reference. No, it was so funny. I was just like at a loss, like, it sounds so silly, but like, you look people.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
You work a lot with people who are not artists.
Right.
So what do you do to help motivate them and give them the confidence to produce such wonderful pieces of art?
It's, it's hard, because sometimes when you have a group of students, or even at the mission, if somebody walks by, like at the mission, and makes fun of those guys, the energy, and they don't wanna do it, and they don't wanna, and so it takes time to try to get all the energy back. So when you're doing those school groups, like I was, only one time were the teachers actually sitting doing the craft. Most of the time, the teachers were walking around, kind of making sure the students were, I guess, staying focused. I'm not letting a student pull the energy. I saw that, but I noticed when the 2 teachers sat down, the kids were awful. Because they followed the teacher's lead, and I know it was awful. Yeah.
So there are lots of interesting projects that you've been a part of, and I was wondering what's your inspiration and where do you get your energy from?
My inspiration, I
Yeah.
think, is like, you know, I just see somebody, you might see you, or you might have a conversation, and, like that, that guy Tom, oh, I love ceramics, I wanna, you know, and then we start talking, oh, let's have a pop-up in the back, and then it's just kind of funny to think like, can we do it? Can we just try it, can it work? So sometimes it's just fun thinking about just following a thought and seeing it through. You're always glad when you see it through.
Yeah.
I mean, I have so many thoughts I don't see through.
In terms of where you get your passion from, so maybe it's kind of an offshoot of that question. I'm complete. Yeah, like so the fact that you're so diverse in what your career is and where you go with it and giving back to the community. Can you speak a little bit about where does that even come from? Do you know what I mean? Like where within you do you feel like I feel like you give so much back to Morristown, for
I feel
instance.
like I have been supported my whole life, whether it be from my family, not my brother Eric, but and teachers and customers, and I feel like all of you here, like I have been supported, like when I went to Kohler. So when you're supported, right? You just, how can it not? How can you not want to carry somebody else too? Or, you know, I think that's probably where it comes from. And you're, yeah.
I think one of the things that you didn't mention is the support that you've given to upstarts like SO Pasta and Cauliflower, you know, lending your shop to them and
Oh, yeah.
giving them a support. I mean, I really admire you for that.
Because people say to me, oh, if I just had a shop, if I just had a storefront, I could, you know, and so, like, okay, here it is, try it. And what's good is, they can see if it's what they like. But I'll tell you, Corey and the guy at SO, they have that entrepreneur, they have it. And you can kind of, the guys upstairs from me are, they're a finance company. They're a rough group. They always talk about the eye of the tiger. They're like, does he have the eye of the tiger? And I think I now know what they mean. Like, and so like these two have that eye of the tiger. I'm still not sure what that means, but they have it. So.
What made you open the bakery to begin with?
I wanted to learn, I needed to grow. So I had always been working as a pastry chef for people, working in kitchens, and I needed, you know, we all need to grow, and we don't always have those opportunities, so we have to make them. So I wanted to learn business, and so that's why I opened up.
So going back to Kohler, I was just curious when you were on the factory floor working on your art pieces and you interacted with the workers, how did they, did they say, you know?
So what's funny is when I did that residency, I worked a steady shift. So I worked from like 6 to 2, 5 days a week. I did not ask for special. I didn't feel like I was special because I was an artist. And so I think they were surprised that I was so regular and not manic. You know, most of the artists that go there, they just want to work all the time. And to me, I was happy to just have one job.
Right.
So I was like, this is great. I can work 8 hours and then go home like everybody else. So I looked at it that way. So.
Did they ask you questions like, you know, what does that mean to be an artist, or what's that like?
No. Those questions, they did because maybe they had seen a lot of artists and they didn't really want to talk to me like that.
Maybe they were
You know,
shy.
Yeah. And they were at work, maybe their supervisor was.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you.